Using good judgment can help an operator avoid most potentially dangerous situations. However, sometimes good judgment is not enough, and an operator is going to have to make a last-minute decision to avoid or minimize a dangerous event or manage an emergency. The first part of this unit covers emergency driving techniques. The second covers crash and emergency procedures. Handling student emergencies is covered in another unit. Since this is a recorded unit of training, please write down any questions that come to you along the way, and we will take time to discuss them at the end of this session. As you can see, things can happen. This picture designates a school bus that was involved in a rather serious accident. Fires. Always a potential on a school bus and can be caused by several different reasons. Things can happen. Most fatalities and accidents occur in the afternoon and mid-year. Students and drivers aren't thinking about a school bus. They're usually thinking about what they will do when they get home. Most fatalities occur between December and May of each year, and that's from the State Education Department. At the end of this session, school bus operators will be able to describe most common emergency conditions encountered by bus operators, recite recommended procedural steps when involved in a crash, demonstrate what to do and how to do it in case of a mechanical failure or breakdown, explain factors considered in deciding to evacuate a bus, describe the sequential order of evacuation, and demonstrate location and use of emergency equipment. Emergency driving techniques. When will you need to use emergency driving techniques? Well, there are several occasions when you might need to call upon your expertise in handling a school bus in an emergency situation. For example, skids, tire blows out, you lose your braking power, sudden loss of visibility, or objects, pedestrians, and obstructions come into the pathway of your bus. Skid control and recovery. A skid occurs when the tires of the bus lose proper traction with the road surface. Weather conditions, driving too fast for conditions, bald tires, overpowering, over-braking, oversteering, unequal traction caused by different road surfaces all can cause loss of traction. Use pictures here to remind you of just what can happen when and where and what the conditions might be. In each case, the cause can be removed by taking the foot off the accelerator or brake and by depressing the clutch if your school bus has a clutch. The reasons are as follows. By decelerating, the vehicle speed is lowered, which in turn will start to reduce the magnitude of the skid. Relaxation of the pressure on the brake pedal will unlock the wheels and allow the tires to regain traction, enabling the vehicle to be steered. If there is a clutch, depressing the clutch pedal has three beneficial effects. The engine will not stall, enabling the vehicle to be moved quickly from the danger zone. The link between engine, providing the power, and transmission is broken. There is no drive to any of the wheels, therefore the vehicle is no longer a front, rear, or four-wheel drive model. A very slippery surface can cause the drive to lock up, which in turn causes the wheels to lock, keeping the vehicle in a skid situation. So keep both hands on the steering wheel. Stop braking to allow rear wheels to start rolling again. Gradually lift foot from the accelerator. Turn in the direction you want to go. Counter steer as necessary. Be aware of correcting the steering too much. Keep your eyes in the direction you want to go. Remember, with anti-lock brakes, don't pump the brakes. Just because you are driving a bus does not mean that you cannot hydroplane. Hydroplaning occurs when there is liquid on the highway and it is enhanced by worn tire tread. The last thing on this list is certainly worth noting. If your vehicle has ABS or anti-lock braking system, do not pump the brakes. They are designed to pump for you. So here's a scenario. In the middle of January and you're on your morning secondary route. You've had this route since the start of school in September, but now the weather is colder. Temperatures last night were barely above freezing. You cross a bridge and begin to skid on black ice. What is the first thing you do? Should the driver have done anything different given the weather conditions? Well, keep both hands on the steering wheel. Take your foot off the accelerator or brake. Stop braking to allow rear wheels to start rolling again. Counter steer. Turn in the direction you want to go. Beware of correcting the steering too much. All of these actions are simultaneous. Should the driver have done anything different? Well, after driving the same route for a year, the driver should be aware of areas where water runs across the road and areas prone to icing. Additionally, if there are any special hazards that are across the road and areas prone to danger, he should be aware of that. If there are things not readily apparent to anyone driving your route, note these so a substitute driver is aware of them too. Typically, these are noted on a route sheet kept in your bus. If there is something in the route or the location of the bus stop that is making a dangerous situation and you have a potential solution, share your concerns with your supervisor. It could be that this is the way the route or stop has to remain due to other constraints, but you should make the effort because it could be that your supervisor is not aware of the situation. Tire blowout. How do you know if your tire fails? Sound. The loud bang of a blowout is an easily recognized sign. Because it can take a few seconds for your vehicle to react, you might think it is some other vehicle. But anytime you hear a tire blow, you must assume it's yours and prepare to stop. Vibration. If the vehicle thumps or vibrates heavily, it may be a sign that one of the tires has gone flat. With a rear tire, that may be the only sign you get. Feel. If the steering feels heavy, it is probably a sign that one of the front tires has failed. Sometimes failure of a rear tire will cause a vehicle to slide back and forth or fishtail. However, dual rear tires usually minimize this. So, what do you do? Keep both hands on the steering wheel. Steer your bus straight. Accelerate for a short period of time until steering is controlled. Let off accelerator once steering is controlled. Do not jam the brakes. Apply brakes slowly after you regain control. Activate signal and pull off the road. Activate hazard warning lights. Set up your portable emergency warning devices. Loss of brakes on level terrain. While slowing the bus, look for an escape route, an open field, wide shoulder, side street, or escape ramp. Turning uphill is a good way to slow and stop the bus. Make sure the bus does not start rolling backwards after you stop. Put it in low gear, apply the parking brake, and if necessary, roll back into some obstacle that will stop the bus. Actual loss of brakes on a downgrade. Going slowly enough and braking properly will almost always prevent brake failure on long downgrades. Once the brakes have failed, however, you're going to have to look outside your bus for something to stop it. Your best hope is a runaway truck ramp provided on many highways with dangerous downgrades. Other than that, use the guide rail, the ditch, hedgerows, or whatever to make every attempt to stop the vehicle with the least amount of damage or injury. Here's a scenario. You're running late one morning and you didn't complete a pre-trip inspection. Everything seems normal as you leave the bus yard. On your way to school for the afternoon pickup, you hear a buzzer. You look down and you are losing air pressure. What should you do? If the driver ignores the warning and keeps driving, what would happen? Signal. Check your mirrors. Pull to the side of the road when safe. Activate four-way emergency flashers. Notify dispatch. Set out portable emergency warning devices are all things that you can do. What happens if you ignore the warning signs? Well, if air pressure is lost, the rear wheels will lock up by the application of the parking or emergency brake, and you will come to a stop. What about the sudden loss of visibility? Say water is splashed on the windshield. One thing now mentioned when water is splashed on the windshield, one thing that is not mentioned in these things here, is to turn on your windshield wipers. Remove your foot from the accelerator, apply the brakes, and look out the side windows if you have to. When the windshield wipers fail, then you most certainly want to look out the side windows. Apply your brakes. Activate turn signal, steer off the road and stop. Activate the warning or the hazard lights. Another loss of visibility. Say that you have water splashed up on your windshield. Then you do go through those things. And let's get back to correct rotation of the slides here. So your headlights fail. What would you do? Well, hit the dimmer switch, activate the hazard lights, try to keep sight of the road, brake slowly, and steer out of traffic and come to a stop. Say you forgot to latch the hood. What happens when the hood flies up? Look out the side windows, apply your brakes, activate turn signal, steer off the road and stop. Activate your warning lights. Other reasons for a loss of visibility: a patch of fog. Activate your strobe light if you have one. Activate the low beams and hazard warning lights and slow down. Use the center or edge lines on the highway to guide you. If the fog is severe, stay in your lane, use your hazard warning lights, and proceed cautiously. A snow whiteout. Remove foot from accelerator. Turn on your wipers. Look outside windows and apply brakes. If necessary, activate turn signal, steer off the road and stop. Activate the hazard warning lights. Should an obstruction run into your path, apply the brakes is not always the best response. If you have both hands on the steering wheel, steering to avoid the crash is the faster response and may be necessary in some situations. Know how to turn quickly and safely. Do not apply the brake while you are turning. It's very easy to lock your wheels while turning. If that happens, you may skid out of control. Do not turn any more than is needed to clear whatever is in your way. The more sharply you turn, the greater the chances of a skid or a rollover. Know where to steer. If an oncoming driver has drifted into your lane, moving to the right is best. If that driver realizes what has happened, the natural response will be to return to his or her own lane. If something is blocking your path, the best direction to steer will depend on the situation. If you've been using your mirrors, you'll know which lane is empty and can be safely used. If the shoulder is clear, going right may be best. No one is likely to be driving on the shoulder, but someone may be passing you on the left. You will know if you have been using your mirrors. If you are blocked on both sides, a move to the right may be best. At least you won't force anyone into an opposing traffic lane and a possible head-on collision. This slide encourages controlled braking. With this method, you apply the brakes as hard as you can without locking the wheels. Keep steering wheel movements very small while doing this. If you need to make a larger steering adjustment or if the wheels lock, release the brakes. As soon as the wheels start rolling, apply the brakes fully again. It can take up to 1 second for the wheels to start rolling after you release the brakes. Reapply the brakes as soon as you can. On a bus with anti-lock brakes, ABS, don't pump the brakes. Apply the brakes firmly. Allow the ABS system to automatically pump the brakes for you. Steering to avoid collision. Keep both hands on the steering wheel. Know how to turn quickly and safely. Don't apply brakes while turning. Minimize your turning. Be prepared to counter steer. Know where to steer to. Steering to avoid collision. Leave the road only when necessary. Avoid over-braking. Keep one set of wheels on the pavement if possible. Stay on the shoulder. Return to the road. Stop first before you do that. And use single steer, counter steer techniques. Let's watch a video now about emergency vehicles.
Any vehicle using a siren and at least one red light is an emergency vehicle. Typically, emergency vehicles are police cars, fire engines, and ambulances. The surrounding traffic on both sides must yield to emergency vehicles. This means pulling over to the right curb or clearing the intersection as safely and quickly as possible. You must remain stopped until the emergency vehicle has passed you. Pull over to the curb even if you hear a siren and you're not sure it's on your street. Check for its location once you're at the curb. Drivers are required to take specific precautionary actions on a freeway when passing a stopped emergency vehicle, tow truck when the emergency lights are activated, or a Department of Transportation vehicle with flashing amber warning lights. Proceed with caution and make a lane change into an available lane not immediately adjacent to the emergency vehicle or tow truck if practical and not prohibited by law. If you cannot make a safe lane change, slow to a reasonable and prudent speed, safe for existing conditions, and obey all lawful orders of police officers and firefighters.
Emergency procedures, remember to know. K for keep. Keep all students on the bus calm. It is safer for the students to remain on the bus if there is no other immediate danger. N in know. Notify. Notify the authorities. Always call for help. Use an available cellular phone, two-way radio, or other communication device on your bus. Know who you should call and how to do so. If you do not have any means of communication on the bus, you may need to identify a responsible bystander to make a call for assistance. Only in extreme emergencies should older, responsible students be sent for help. Refer to your school district policy on this. O and no. Off. Off of the road. If you break down, try to position the bus completely off the road and away from other dangers. If it is not possible to do this, remember to evacuate the students and take them to a safer location. The W in no is for warning, meaning warning devices. Use portable emergency warning devices that satisfy current state regulations. At least 3 portable emergency reflective triangles to warn other motorists of your position on the road. Here's the 4 C's of emergency procedures. Always be calm. Have concern for the passengers. Care for the vehicle and getting it into a safe location. Complete all necessary paperwork. CRAS procedures, bus-related procedures, carry out local policies and procedures. This is very important, especially for insurance reasons. Assess the situation. Be alert for fire or hazardous materials. Assess the students. CRAS procedures carry out local policies and procedures. Notify authorities, and when you do, know the who, what, and where answers that they will be asking. Protect the scene and those that are there. Cooperate with crash investigators. Police, school officials, insurance companies, emergency packet on the bus. Provide all required information that is requested. Keep students at the scene. Do not release them unless instructed by school official or medical emergency. What about reporting? Follow company policy. Report all crashes to your supervisor. There are no minor crashes. Reporting information is an emergency packet and in forms provided or by contacting the transportation director. Report within 24 hours to the chief school administrator. Report within 5 days the school bus crash report. Even if it's not a reportable crash, report it to someone. All right, so we have a situation. You're running late on your morning route. You speed up just 5 miles per hour over the posted speed limit to make up some time. It's a clear day and the roads are dry. You feel you know every inch of this road after having driven the same route for the past 5 years. Suddenly, a child darts out in front of your bus. What do you do? What could the driver have done differently? Again, applying the brakes is not always the best response. If you have both hands on the steering wheel, steering to avoid the crash is the faster response. Know how to turn quickly and safely. Do not apply the brake while you are turning. It's very easy to lock your wheels while turning. If that happens, you may skid out of control. Do not turn any more than needed to clear whatever is in your way. The more sharply you turn, the greater the chances of a skid or a rollover. If you can't steer to avoid the crash, use controlled braking. With this method, you apply the brakes as hard as you can without locking the wheels. Keep steering wheel movements very small while doing this. If you need to make a larger steering adjustment or if the wheels lock, release the brakes. As soon as the wheels start rolling, apply the brakes fully again. It can take up to 1 second for the wheels to start rolling after you release the brakes. Reapply the brakes as soon as you can. On a bus with anti-lock brakes, don't pump the brakes. Apply the brakes firmly, allowing the ABS system to automatically pump the brakes. What if your bus breaks down? Stop the bus as far to the right of the road or on the shoulder if possible. Keep students on the bus unless it's in an unsafe location. Activate hazard warning lights. Place portable emergency warning devices. Contact dispatch for instructions. See that arrangements are made for all students to be delivered to their destination. All right, let's talk about when to evacuate a bus. In some instances, it may be necessary to evacuate the bus. Here are some instances when you must get the passengers off the bus and to a safe location as soon as possible and as safely as possible. All passengers should be directed at least 100 feet away from the bus when they are evacuated. Evacuation drills are conducted during the first week of school or close to that. In a real emergency, you, the driver, might be incapacitated and unable to direct the student emergency evacuation. So during the drill, be sure to review the procedures with students so that they know what to do if you are unable to help. Don't assign a student as a leader without written consent from a parent or legal guardian. There may be concerns expressed by parents that an operator would ask their child to take on a position of leadership in the event of an emergency, which is why written consent is necessary. This is the responsibility of the school district not the bus operator. While evacuation drills are required by law and practiced by operators to ensure that events can go relatively smoothly and safely in the event of a real emergency, safety during the drill is also of paramount importance. There have been incidents of serious injury to operators while conducting the drill. Be sure your bus is in a safe location. All drills are completed with safety as a top priority. Here is a front door evacuation diagram. It may be that you will be tested on the proper evacuation procedure while doing the parked bus exercise. However, to date, no new drivers have been required to do such. Here is the rear door evacuation procedure. 2 helpers at the rear door, someone watching the traffic side of the bus, not necessarily in the traffic lane, of course, and then a spotter to where the students are to go and line up or assemble. If you're doing both front and rear door evacuations, it would look something similar to this. All right, so you're in an emergency and you need to use your emergency equipment. Every bus must have a list of names for all students who ride the bus and the appropriate pickup and delivery times for each student. This list can be used to account for the students in an emergency and is provided by the school director of transportation. Although not required, a seating chart for students on the bus is strongly recommended. It can also be helpful in emergency situations. When needing to use emergency reflectors, you need to know how to place them. Here's a placement on a 2-lane highway where traffic flows in 2 directions. The first reflector, placed along the roadway on the side of the bus within 10 feet of the front and/or rear corner to mark the location of the bus. The second reflector, about 100 feet behind the bus on the shoulder lane you are stopped in. If there is a hill or curve that prevents oncoming traffic from seeing the bus, place the reflector up to 500 feet behind the bus. The third reflector, about 100 feet in front of the bus, using greater distances if conditions warrant. So 3 reflectors, one 10 feet, the other 100 to 500 feet behind the bus, and then one at least 100 feet in front of the bus. Let's talk a little bit about other emergency equipment. A pry bar is an important tool when it comes to prying open an exit door or for smashing out a window to allow escape. It could also be used to pry open roof hatches that might be jammed. Only try to extinguish a fire if you know what you're doing and it is safe. Your first priority is to evacuate all students and quickly get them somewhere safe. Do not waste your time fighting a fire when you need to get the students off the bus. These instructions are applicable to most fire extinguishers, but you should check and be familiar with the instructions for the extinguisher that is on your bus. You should have actual hands-on use of the fire extinguisher during training, and we'll take a look at those and see if we can't make that happen during our training time. With an engine fire, turn the engine off as soon as you can. Do not open the hood if you can avoid it. Shoot extinguishers through louvers, radiator, or from the underside of the vehicle. This is what a seatbelt cutter looks like. They come in various sizes, but very similar designs, but different colors. Unfortunately, security from terrorist threat has become part of the school bus operator's concern. We are emphasizing today that the very same actions and procedures school bus drivers use to assist with bus maintenance and student safety generally are also the same activities and procedures useful for vigilance against a potential attack. The vigilance employed at bus stops for unusual activity helps protect against terror attacks, as well as more common criminal activity. Notice how these items are similar to your pre-trip inspection. Seats. Look for lumps, bulges, damaged upholstery, and any suspicious packages on a seat. On your floor surface, look for modifications to material or unusual thickness. Your passenger compartment, smell for strange odors, raised floors, unusual welds, unusual items, or excessive weight. Your exterior surface, look for missing screws, unusual scratches, welds, signs of tampering, or recent paint. Your undercarriage, look for items that are taped or attached to the frame or fresh undercoating. In your engine compartment, look for odd wires or liquids, unusual welds or new tape. Your tires, look for unusual odor from the air valve. And your fenders, look for unusual thickness in your fenders. Identifying suspicious behavior or activities, pay a particular attention to anyone who appears interested in school facilities or vehicles, has been cited with a school or bus stop several times, has placed a package in a public place and left quickly, solicits information on school facilities or buses, takes pictures or videotapes in the school areas, looks lost or is wandering and seems to be out of place, shows disruptive, distracting behavior, wears clothing that is not weather appropriate, possesses a weapon or dangerous item, or uses their vehicle in a suspicious way. So you need to report these items, especially unusual activity. Remain always alert and calm. Be as observant as possible. Pay attention to the details. Immediately report suspicious items and behavior. Be able to report the location, color, year, make, model, license plate number of any vehicles. Be sure to include the directions of any suspicious vehicles as far as where they were going, which direction they were headed in. Never touch a suspicious item. You need to move as far away as possible and be aware that you could be injured by flying glass or debris. Do not use your radio or cell phone within 300 feet of a timer or device. Remember that you cannot identify suspicious behavior based on stereotypes of race, color, or ethnicity. These things do not necessarily indicate that you're dealing with someone that will cause harm. Denial is a common thing for the victim to feel in hostage situations. They think this cannot be, this is not happening to me, or that it's just a joke. Belief of immediate rescue. Do not mislead yourself by thinking you will be rescued right away. It is to your advantage for the situation to take time to resolve. There is more of an opportunity for negotiation with the captor, which can lead to a peaceful resolution. Make a determined effort to stay focused. Avoid the temptation to let your thoughts center around your family or loved ones and what might become of them if something should happen to you. Here is a clip that you'll find interesting from the news.
Newly released video and 911 calls of a harrowing ordeal on board a school bus. A man with a knife allegedly hijacking the vehicle packed with children, leading police in Arkansas on a 20-minute chase last month. Kids and driver safely rescued. ABC's Gio Benitez has the story.
Watch the dramatic, newly released video captured on police dash cam. Kids escaping a school bus, allegedly hijacked by a knife-wielding man. Just minutes earlier, a frantic woman had dialed 911.
He got on the school bus with a knife with the bus driver, and they're driving down North Martin Street.
Police chased that bus with 11 elementary school children on board. The driver describing the terror inside.
He flipped the knife out and he said, drive, shut the door and drive. And that's what I did. I said, okay, where do you want to go? What's wrong?
The 911 caller on the street tries to keep calm.
I'm so scared.
okay?
It's okay. Just calm down, okay?
He was some crazy freaking guy and he had a knife.
He didn't even want me to stop the bus. He wanted me to switch with him while the bus was rolling. And I said, no, we can't do that.
Police in Jacksonville, Arkansas chased the bus for some 12 miles until they stopped it. Those little kids run out one by one, rushing to safety.
Give me your hands. Give me your hands.
Little girl told me she was scared, and I told her it was going to be okay.
Police surround the bus and arrest 22-year-old Nicholas Miller. Law enforcement telling ABC News overnight, Miller told them he took the bus because he felt somebody was after him. He's pleaded not guilty to 22 charges, including kidnapping. This morning, that bus driver of 20 years hailed as a hero. She certainly is. Nicholas Miller's father, by the way, told us his son is a great kid who wasn't trying to hurt anyone, but he acknowledged that Miller is addicted to drugs. He'll face a judge in January. Robin, just imagine, these kids were on their way to school.
Yeah, that's right. Didn't get quick acting. All right, Gio, thanks very much.
Okay, in hostage awareness then, things to do in a hostage situation: bond with your captor. Try to relate to them and build a relationship of understanding and sympathy. Do not allow the captor to view you as an object instead of a person. Let your captor know that you are a father or mother and that there are people who depend on you, even if there are none. Avoid having your face covered. This dehumanizes a person. Without being obvious to the captor, note hair color, any scars, tattoos, or other identifying marks. Estimate their height and weight. Law enforcement personnel would detain everyone until identification can be verified. Captors have exchanged clothing with hostages in an effort to escape. Your district will have officials on the scene to identify you. Speak only when spoken to. Do not initiate conversation. The incident could go on for hours. Avoid falling into depression and remain confident that you will be released. Even though you may have had a difficult time with the students all year, they will look to you for leadership in an emergency. If you maintain your composure, it will help them to do the same. It is vital that you write down everything that occurs during the hostage situation from onset to resolution. Do this as soon as possible while the events are still fresh in your mind. Do not speak to the media. Your district officials on the scene should shield them from you. Follow district policy regarding any future media contact. Here are some things not to do. Remember that the captor is holding you against your will with some type of weapon. Do not behave or speak in a manner that may be perceived by the captor as threatening to them. Keep your eyes down will give the appearance of submission. Do not appear aggressive in your body language or facial expressions. Do not volunteer to assist the captor in any way. Do not interfere with the actions of the captor. For instance, he or she may be irritated with crying. So if you have a crying student, they will strike the students to keep them quiet. Remember that you are being held at gun or knife point. Challenging the captor will increase the risk of further harm to yourself and or your students. Only the police will conduct negotiations. If you involve yourself, you may jeopardize a peaceful resolution to the hostage situation. Do not make offers or promises of money or possessions in exchange for the release of the students. Only the police can negotiate. Keep the captor give the captor whatever they want. Do not resist. It could result in harm to yourself and or your students. So keep the peace as much as you can. Be patient. Remain calm. Do not be confrontational. Be a good witness. Attempt to get along. Cooperate with police. And know your passengers and be there for them. 2 key points to wrap up this section. Report suspicious items and unusual activity immediately. Be proactive in this. Avoid getting caught in the situations if at all possible, and make sure you call the police or see that they are notified. You cannot identify suspicious behavior based on what a person looks like. That is their stereotype of race, color, or ethnicity. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about terrorism or hostage potential.